Brother has been bullying my sister since we were kids, but my parents always called it pranks and made excuses for him. So when my sister got engaged, she didn't invite him to her wedding. So, my 37F, brother Mike 35M, is a knob. Always has been and always will be. He has been babied to the point of uselessness by our mom and dad, and that's made him an entitled slob. When he was younger, he showed promise playing rugby, which had my mom and dad believing he was going to be a superstar. The problem was though that he never had the work ethic to fully fulfill his potential. However, this meant that he was the golden boy of the family and he could do wrong in my parents' eyes. He was a bully at school, which they brushed off as other kids making up lies, but he was an even bigger bully at home to our younger sister Kelly 31F. He would constantly prank her, which basically meant he would do anything he could embarrass her, including things like pulling her dress up in front of the whole family at a wedding when she was 15. Mom and dad just said it was siblings being siblings, but the rest of the family were mortified by his behavior. I did try and stick up for my sister and it worked to a certain extent, but after I went away to uni, there wasn't much I could do as mom and dad just don't listen to anyone. It got so bad that when she was 18, my sister gave up going to her dream university, St Andrews, and instead moved to London to go to the Imperial College London. This was a huge shock to all of us as she had been talking about St Andrews since she started high school at 11. When I asked why, she said that St Andrews was too close to home and she would be expected to go back home more often, but if she went to London she would only have to go home for Christmas. This broke my heart. After she left, she did exactly that. The only time she was home was Christmas and when I got married. This really annoyed mom and dad as they said she was abandoning the family. I kept my mouth shut and just let them whine occasionally as I didn't want an argument. After graduating from uni, my parents expected her to move back home, but she didn't. She got a job working in southern England and stayed down there. We are from Scotland for reference. 6 years ago, Kelly met a great guy, Jake 30 meters. The day she met him she called me gushing about him, and I've honestly never heard her speak about anyone the way she does him. I've met him several times when I've gone down to visit Kelly and he's great. Good looking, funny, great job, his family are lovely, and most importantly, he treats Kelly like she hung the moon. It's very cute. After she met him, she cut down how much she came home even more as she spent the first Christmas with his family, and then the pandemic happened so she ended up not coming home for 3 years. Her first Christmas home, Mike started his usual bullshit, trying to be their center of attention. When it didn't work out as well as he wanted, as most of the family were more interested in getting to know Jake, he then tried to prank Kelly. He got a big bowl of water and was going to pour it over her. Jake saw what was happening and stepped in front of Kelly, telling Mike to not even think about it. Side note, Jake is 6'3" and has been doing martial arts since he was 4, so he can be very intimidating when needed. Mom and dad tried to play it off as a harmless prank, but Jake was having none of it. Mike started whining about it just being a prank, and Jake told him that if he pranked Kelly one more time, he would prank Jake by putting his foot up his arse and his fist down his throat. Kelly and Jake left about an hour later, but after that Mike, Mom and dad all had an issue with Jake. Kelly hasn't been back home since. That leads us to now. Kelly and Jake are getting married. They sent out invites in February for August. However, they didn't invite Mike. Mom and dad are obviously incensed by this and had a huge argument with Kelly. They threatened not to go, and Kelly just said no problem, she would get granddad to walk her down the aisle. I went around to their house on Saturday with my kids. Immediately my mom started complaining about Kelly and the wedding. I sat and listened for a while before it had enough. I asked her what did she actually expect? Her and dad have allowed Mike to be the golden child and get away with everything. Because of that, he can't keep a relationship, due to him thinking everyone should do everything for him. He can't hold down a job because every job is beneath him, and he's still living at home with zero prospects in life. The man-child is a bully who I don't trust to be around my children unsupervised. He bullied Kelly for most of her teen years, and her only escape was to move over 400 miles away and never come home. My mom got very quiet and then asked me to leave. A few hours later my dad called going mad because I'd upset my mom and was taking the side of an ungrateful little girl instead of my parents who gave me everything. This started a huge argument between me and him where I told him he'd been a crap dad to Kelly and didn't deserve to walk her down the aisle. I've just had enough, but now I've got extended family members telling me I've gone too far as my mom is barely speaking to anyone and keeps crying. My granddad said it was about time I told them off, but my grandma is upset by all the arguing. So Ada for telling my parents that they sucked at parents and deserve to be kicked out of my sister's wedding? Update, hi all, that post took off a lot more than I thought it would. There was way too many comments for me to respond to, but I tried to read every one of them. I was asked for an update, so here it is. There were a few things that came up repeatedly, so I'll address them first. The pranks only started after I had left and gone to uni. He would say things to Kelly and I would have a go back at him when we were younger, but it wasn't anything more than that until after I'd left home, so there wasn't anything I could really do to stop it. I did speak to our parents, but they're useless. Second thing was about my kids. I didn't bring my kids around them very much as they didn't like going to my parents' house. They said it was boring and they don't like Mike. However, after all the comments I got about this, I sat them down and asked them again. For my daughter, it really is just that she finds it boring and says that Mike is a weirdo. My son, however, said that he doesn't like being around my dad as he keeps trying to make him play rugby. I have heard these comments and told my dad to drop it, but he would still make the comments occasionally. I had no idea that it was upsetting my son though, so this surprised me. My son doesn't like sports, be it watching or playing. He's very much like his dad in that regard. He's a Pokemon kid, playing online and goes every Thursday evening to play in a tournament at our local card shop, so rugby is an absolute no-go for him. The third thing was about security at the wedding. I spoke to Kelly and Jake said that 2 of his groomsmen are police officers who are aware of the situation, so that won't be a problem. Lastly, there was a lot of comments about Mike being the golden child. For a bit more backstory, he wasn't really the favorite until his talent in rugby came to light. After that, he was special and had to be treated that way. I think he was seen as mom and dad's way of being special themselves within the family as they had such a super talented child. Anyway, today, I decided to sit down with my parents and tell them I needed a break from them. When I got there, my dad immediately wanted me to apologize to my mom, but I said that wasn't going to happen. There was a bit of back and forth between him and I, until my mom stepped in and asked why I was there if not to apologize. I told them that I'd spoken to Kelly and she didn't want them at the wedding at all. That they needed to stay away and respect her decision. They weren't happy but said they wouldn't go where they weren't wanted. I then told them I wanted space until after the wedding as I couldn't keep being around them and keeping my mouth shut. I thought that space would be good for all of us. My mom wasn't happy and started on about seeing my kids. I told them the truth. My kids hated coming to their house and told my dad exactly why my son doesn't want to be around him. He got upset by this and said that rugby would be good for him. I shut that down and said I'm not going to force my son to do something he does want to and something I know he will hate. I also told him that if I hear him mention it around my son again, then he won't see my son again. Right now they will only be seeing my kids at family events, so I'm hoping that it won't be a problem. I then asked them what their long-term plan was with Mike. Are they going to keep things the way they are until they're 90 and mom will still be making all his meals? What happens when they're gone? Who will look after him because it won't be me? What happens if they get ill? Who will look after them? Mike is incapable. Kelly lives down south and I plan on moving back to my husband's hometown 3 hours away once the kids have left home, so I can't do it. They just looked at me blankly. I really don't think that they had ever even thought about any of that before. I told them they had set Mike up to fail and now they needed to deal with it. I also told them I knew that they were leaving everything to him in their will, but that with how they have babied Mike, he would blow through that money in less than a year and then what? I could see the panic in my mom's eyes when I said that. She either hadn't thought about it or she thought I would look after him, which she now knows isn't gonna happen. I also think she was shocked that I knew about their will. After me telling them what low contact with me was going to look like going forward and them not being happy about it, I left. Hopefully I've given them a lot to think about. I will check in with them from time to time, but that's all right now. I'm going to visit Kelly in the next couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. My extended family have also backed off after I sent them all a text saying if they were so concerned about my mom then they could be her support system and deal with Mike the same way Kelly and I have had to for years. Not surprisingly, none of them wanted to. Otherwise, I'm going to just try and get on with things as normal. Thanks for the NTA verdict and all the advice, it opened my eyes to a few things that I'd been brushing off. Next story, found out my female coworkers made a group chat ranking all the guys at work by how hot they are, but they left me off the list completely even though they included delivery guys who just drop things off at our store. So here's the deal, I 21 work at a store part-time while I'm attending classes. There are a total of 21 of us who work at this store, 13 girls, 8 guys, and we're all around the same age. We have a pretty good working atmosphere, no open hostility so far I know, and everyone gets along well, and jokes around with everyone. Though I will say, the guys and girls do tend to stick together more. As for me, I'm fairly well liked by everyone. I try and be pleasant to everyone I work with because who needs an asshole coworker? Unfortunately, here's where things go bad. One of the guys who work us, Chris 23M, is dating one of the girls in the store, Ashley 21F. Chris was apparently BSing on her phone when he came across the girls group chat. He said it was mostly girl talk, but he found a list ranking all of the guys in the store by their hotness. He had a laugh about it and screenshotted it to send to our group chat. Everyone saw it and had a laugh at the rankings. The guy at the top, Chad 22 meters, kept sending crown emojis. Then everyone noticed I wasn't there. I didn't look at the chat till later since I was with my parents at the time and had it on mute. When I saw I wasn't on the list, it was like I was slapped across the face. And the worst part of this? The list was out of 10, and they included the 3 delivery guys who drop off stuff and some of the girls flirt with. This crushed me, in a way I don't think I've ever been crushed before. It's like, damn, I'm that much of a hideous monster that I'm not worthy of being ranked. I spent the rest of my day being miserable, and not talking to anyone. When I wasn't responding to the chat, the guys all tried to hit me up individually, but I didn't respond. I looked into the chat and the guys were starting to be pissed on my behalf, which I definitely didn't want. I decided to call in sick the next day, and when I didn't show up, apparently it all came out into the open. The girls at the store started messaging me, apologizing to me and making all kinds of excuses. Quite frankly, I didn't care. I decided to face the music the next day and suck it up at work. When I walked into work, the atmosphere was a lot more tense than it usually was. Becky 23F, who is the assistant manager and was on the group chat, pulled me to the side and asked if we could talk. I said okay. She apologized on behalf of everyone in the chat and said that the list was not serious. It was girl talk, and not meant to be seen outside the chat. She said that everyone, especially the women at the store, like me for far more valuable things than simply how I look, and that if it were a list of nicest guys in the store, I'd be number 1. I couldn't help but feel like this was damage control and being friend-zoned all in one motion. I said, thank you, but I'm past it and I don't want anyone's pity, and I went about my day. Of course, I did end up getting that pity with a lot of the guys coming over to talk to me, and some of the girls as well. I got so fed up I went to the manager and asked to go home early. She agreed because she kinda knew what was going on. This was all about 5 days ago, and since then everyone at the store has been trying to get me to talk, but I haven't gone back. I don't want pity and I don't want sympathy. If they think I'm ugly, then fine, but don't try and justify it, or make me feel better about it. The reason I'm here is because I need advice on how to navigate the situation at my job and with my friends. How do I tell everyone to basically leave me alone and not pity me? Because honestly, I'm leaning towards just quitting. Edit. Hey everyone, I'm reading your comments and I thank everyone for their input, the tough love and all. I just wanted to pop in here and say one thing. I didn't feel entitled to them thinking I was hot. I don't feel entitled to sex or whatever from them. I'm not a nice guy or an incel. The reason I was upset is because them leaving me off the list for relative strangers felt pretty cruel and messed up. I don't know how to describe it. Like it, guess it sucks I'm not attractive to them, but being left off entirely felt like a step too far. Update 1. Hey everyone, I'm back and boy do I have an update for you. I can't believe this situation exploded so much. There was a fight, arrests, and I think someone might be getting divorced. Okay, not really. People wanted to know how I was doing, so I decided I'd just make an update. I just wanted to clear up a few things. First, I didn't care necessarily if they found me ugly or whatever, I just felt like being left off the list was a deliberate slap in the face. I didn't, or don't feel entitled to anything. Next, the manager of the store, Barb, was not involved in the group chat in any way. She's a 38-year-old married woman with 2 kids who is far too busy trying to get us to stop smoking weed behind the store on our breaks. What I meant to say is that she was made aware of the situation after it was brought to her attention. Third, I wasn't aware of the list right away. I was with my parents and wasn't paying attention to the chat. Now, after reading the comments on the first thread, I decided that while I could be upset that I was deemed unattractive, I probably shouldn't care as much I did. I kinda wanted to discover why not being on the list hurt me so much, so I took my sister's advice and will be seeking a therapist. Funny enough, my grandpa has a saying that came to mind when reading the comments in the first thread. Whenever my dad or his brothers and sisters would be upset about something, my grandpa would tell them, I didn't get wounded in the Yadrong Valley so you could sit there and cry about X. The X could be anything. The point is he was telling them to toughen up. It became a joke among my aunts and uncles that passed down to my cousins. So I could hear my grandpa telling me in head, I didn't get wounded in the Yadrong Valley so you could sit there and cry about some girls thinking you're ugly. And that got me up a bit. I was still feeling kinda shitty, but I decided to put on a brave face and tell my manager I'd come into work the next day after posting the thread. As soon as I walked in, the manager took me to her office and said the owner of the store wanted to see me. I wasn't really worried since I had a good relationship with Carl, who was the owner. Carl told me he heard about the story and he was sorry about everything. He said the list was childish and unprofessional and he was sorry I had to take time off to deal with it. He said the girls all got a strong reprimand and a stern warning that this wouldn't be tolerated in the future. He also suspended Becky because he said she should have not been in the chat to begin with, and if she was, she should stop the list stuff. He also emphasized that he told everyone that he hadn't talked to me yet, and that he wasn't punishing anyone because I asked for it. He also said he'd pay me for the shifts I missed as a bit of compensation for the mental distress. I thanked him and told him I was over it pretty much right away. I just hated having everyone think I needed coddling and wanted everything to cool down. With that we shook hands and I started my day. Everyone welcomed me back, and I said hey to everyone. I went to my locker and found a letter slipped inside. It was a handwritten letter from all the girls. I'll summarize here because the list was long. In it they apologized profusely for the chat and the list. They said that nothing was going to make it right, or make me believe them, but they wanted to say once again, the list was non-serious and meant to be some stupid fun. And no one was meant to see it. They said that they all loved me individually, that I was a good person and that makes me more attractive than most people who are considered hot. Interestingly, they said I was considered cute. Okay, then lol. I flagged down one of the girls on shift who I get along with really well, Sam 20F, to tell the group that I accept their apology. I told her to tell them that I got over it pretty much right away, that I just took time off because I wanted the situation to die down and that I didn't take anything personally. Also I told her that I'm sorry that anyone got in trouble. I didn't talk to the Barb or Carl about anything until today. I didn't want this to become an issue at all. Unfortunately the guys made it an issue on my behalf. Sam apologized again and told me she'd tell everyone. And that's that. Sorry if this was not the explosive post you all were looking for. I just wanted to get this situation resolved as soon as possible and put behind me so that I, and everyone else can move on. I am thinking about not returning next semester however. So thanks all, I appreciate your comments and helping me get through this little episode in my life. Update 2, hey all, I thought I'd stop by for a quickish update. I had enough people in my DMs asking me how I was doing and I got sick of responding to everyone individually, so I thought I'd do it here since this really didn't warrant a whole new thread. First, I'm doing great. Therapy has been amazing so far. I even managed to go in person, which my therapist says is really rare these days, but now that I'm back in school I'll be doing virtual. Back to the point, I learned a lot about myself in therapy and I've had my view of the world altered to some degree. It's actually really cool to see the world in a new light. Second, I know this is gonna sound cliche as fuck, but I started weight training. I'm not trying to be Chris Hemsworth or something, I just want enough to have some definition, and abs. I was always a little skinny, so I'm going for the swimmer's physique. I also got a haircut and changed up my wardrobe some. All of my clothes except for a few were from high school, so it was time to change it up. No more band shirts and old sweats. Instead I'm trying for a semi-casual look. Or at least that's what my sister thinks I should be doing. Third, as for the store, I quit. I couldn't work there anymore, it would have been just too weird. I finished the semester and got a summer internship. Funny enough, I ran into one of the girls who worked with me at the mall. She lives a town over. She asked if I was still mad about the list and I told her I wasn't and never was. She said they really didn't mean anything by the list and they really did love me and thought I was super nice and that I was pretty cute. I guess that's a good thing lol. It kinda sucks because I was looking forward to being a 4-year lifer at the store and hanging out with everyone more, but hey, it is what it is. I'm still really cool with everyone, we hang out all the time and it isn't awkward. So I guess that's it, and if you're still following this post, thanks.